Who do I call if it ain't you? Tell me who to call if it ain't you. I've been pacing circles in my bedroom. I've been chasing secrets in your heirloom. Let me do what I do best, slow down.
Hello, welcome back to a new writing vlog. So I'm actually out of town for the week. I'm visiting a friend. She basically let me overtake her space. I have a feeling that I will be able to work a little bit on my book while I'm here, and I thought I would just vlog some of it. If you're new to these vlogs, my main project right now is an adult fantasy. The first draft is written. I'm currently writing the second draft. I'm currently in the process of sort of brushing up and line editing the second part. And maybe I'm gonna be starting the third part soon. I don't know if I'm gonna get to that in this vlog, but I have started like re-outlining it essentially. So I didn't bring any books with me while I traveled here just because I didn't think I would have any time to read. But when I came to town with my friend the other day, we went into a French bookstore and she really wanted a copy of Little Women. So when we asked the sales clerk, the only copy that they had was this like abridged like kid version. But yeah, I might read this to tide me over if I'm in the mood to read. I feel like I'm really excited to work on my project while I'm here because it's just a good change of scenery to be able to like get out of my room, get out of my house, just because obviously with lockdown over the past 2 years, I've written most of my writing, pretty much like 99% of it. All of my projects have been written in my house. So this is the first time since the pandemic that I'll be spending a significant amount of time outside of my usual environment. I'm gonna go get ready for the day and maybe also run across the street and get a coffee. Okay, coffee is secure. Let's rate it. Since I've been making my lattes at home for like 2 years, I've realized that I like a really, really strong latte. The blend is kind of like nutty. Okay. If you guys watched my previous video, you will know that I recently sent Act 1 of my book for a beta read. This fan always turns on when I start talking. I'm just convinced that like, because Emily's feedback was so positive, it's not that I think that she's lying, because I know that she's not the type of person who's gonna like be nice to me to not hurt my feelings, is very honest in her feedback. But I just feel like I need another affirmation that the act is actually interesting. I don't know. I do feel like my approach to writing has improved over the course of drafting this book. It makes me curious about how I'm gonna feel going into my next book or finishing my next book. It does make me kind of excited to start a new project just because now I feel like I have a much better grasp on what my weaknesses are when it comes to plotting. And just generally, I feel like I've gained a lot more knowledge and like comfort level, really understanding what it is that I really like in a story, trying to really execute that in my own stories. I don't know, I'm excited to see how skills will improve, how my ideas will mature. The more life you live, I feel like the more interesting and complex your ideas can get, you know? It's not to say that there aren't like young writers with great ideas, but there's just something about like aging that I think gives you a new perspective on life and also character. It makes me really curious to think about like what kind of stories I'm gonna be writing when I'm like 40, you know? Although I do feel like a good writer is able to like put themselves in other people's shoes and put themselves in different experiences, I also think that the added life experience of actually like living through the years of life that your characters are does tend to make your characters a little bit more complex or interesting or whatever. Because I remember being like 10, 12, 15 years old, already trying to write stories about 20-year-olds, for example. And obviously when I look back on that stuff now, it makes me laugh, because what did I know about the unique experiences and the nuances of being in your 20s? I didn't. I was like faking it. Finally at the age, like I'm basically the same age as my characters for the first time in my life. I feel like that's one added facet of why I'm able to connect better with the characters. It's a lot easier to write characters that are younger than you than older than you, because you've already lived through that life. But what I found was that I'm now struggling to write authentic, like middle-aged people. So there's quite a few side characters in the book who are like in their 40s and up. I only have tropes to rely on. You know, while I am trying my best to write a nuanced character, it's always going to be inherently more challenging. Okay, so this morning I was able to get some writing in. I started editing the first chapter of part 2, but it's taking me longer than I thought it was gonna take me to edit this chapter. I previously, when I was working on it like a week ago, I felt like I hit sort of a breakthrough with this chapter. It's basically kind of like a problem chapter. Now there's just like some chapters in your book that they need a little bit more care and attention than the other kids. This is one of those chapters. I thought I had gotten it into a place last week that I liked, but now that I was reading it back today, I suddenly don't like it that much again. Compared to where this chapter was months ago in draft 1, finally feels like a scene. This finally feels like a true chapter that can sit in this manuscript. I don't know, I just feel like I need to work on it and make myself another coffee. Okay, bonjour.
Oh my gosh.
Insahe. You have to insahe in all 3 languages.
Can't.
We got banh mi, and now we're gonna eat it. So some elements kind of have to get shifted around. No, I've leveraged some of his work already. Yeah. Okay, I'm having this coffee for second day in a row, and it's tasting a lot better today. Okay, so my plans today to have like a nice 12 p.m. writing session are kind of going down the drain. I'm still not super happy with where the chapter is right now. Like, I just feel like it's boring. I'm just bored. I can't tell. Okay, I honestly can't tell if I'm finding the chapter boring because I've just read it so many times in the past few weeks, or if it's genuinely boring. I think what I actually want to work on today is some of my short fiction. I feel like that's the best thing to get me just out of a slump whenever I'm feeling really uninspired with my prose. I think I'm gonna start working again on that cyberpunk short story that I started a while back. I haven't worked on that in a really, really long time, so maybe this is a sign. Okay, I have never subscribed to a newspaper, a literary magazine, or anything like that ever. I kind of got in the mood to like skim some literary magazines, and as I was doing that, I sort of got like the urge to consider submitting like various speculative magazines. And it's not like I haven't considered doing this before, but it's more like allocating my time to my writing. I spend most of my effort on my novels, and I use short stories as kind of this like escape. But there were like various magazines that I thought were really, really interesting, and I think that some of my ideas might slot into like the style of those magazines, or at least like thematically what has been published before. I don't know. I hesitate to say that I'm like gonna try to submit to them, but it's just something that crossed my mind, like in a more serious capacity than it has. But at the same time, it's kind of intimidating. I don't want like the stress of publication, you know. I get really stressed out thinking about having to query my books. And I just like don't want that same level of stress thinking about having to submit to magazines, although it is something that I've wanted to do on and off like for many, many years. Okay. Right now I'm like looking at a bunch of bellflowers because as I was writing the first scene, I started feeling like a bellflower could be a strong like core motif for the story. And you know what I'm finding about like writing short stories in particular is like, oh, especially when you're like pantsing them, it's so much about just like stumbling into an image that you realize could kind of like work for the moment that you're trying to create, and then you just like take that singular image and see how far you can like stretch it towards your theme. Sometimes I just feel like it's a process of like playing around with imagery until you find one that has legs. Now I'm like looking up the significance of bellflowers. Gratitude, constancy, is that a word? Purple bellflowers, royalty, elegance, wealth, success, and tradition. Maybe we could work with this. Okay, so we've been doing a lot of project hopping over the last couple days. Right now I'm actually working on my short story again, and I originally was just gonna take like a short manuscript break from NIGHTWARD because I was getting like really frustrated with the chapter that I've been revising. So I went back to, well, actually, I started outlining a new short story. I haven't started writing it, and I hesitate to call it really outlining. It's more like I planned the rough sort of seeds of an idea for a new short story. I'm sort of thinking it's going to be a little bit more folklore-esque in its vibe, and it's going to be like contemporary. It is titled, it's called I'll Take You Past the Glory Days. Even though I haven't started writing the story, now that I've started doing this thing where I'm titling the story before I write it, it's actually been really helpful because I feel like I have sort of a tonal note in my head before I even get into writing it, which is still quite new for me, but I'm enjoying it. So I'm excited to work on that one after I finish the one that I'm working on right now, which is called Sway With Me Until We Bleed. I've talked about this before, like in a previous vlog, but now I'm like working on it a lot more. I am still sort of like brushing up the first scene, but I have kind of like more of a feel of what I want the story to feel like. I still don't know how I want it to end. I have like a couple ideas, but I don't know if I like either of them. So I'm just kind of like winging it right now, which has actually been really fun so far. I didn't think that I would enjoy pantsing a story to this extent, but I have. Plot twist, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, Sway With Me is at around 420 words. Yeah, anyways, I'm just gonna write a little bit and then eat lunch, and I still have some work to do, still have a meeting for the rest of the day. Okay, today is Friday and the week is almost over. We're making pancakes as if it's not almost 1 p.m. We slept at 4:30 last night. Was it 4:30?
Something like that.
So we went to Taylor Swift night, which was crazy because it was like 9% girls. They literally just played an entire like 4 hours of Taylor Swift discography. It was really fun. Showered, and then it was like 4 a.m. and we watched an episode of Conversations with Friends, which is like, what are your thoughts on Conversations with Friends?
I'm worried.
Celine's in her woodland creature era.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I kind of flopped and I forgot that I had started a vlog and then hadn't finished it. So here we are, many days later. But yeah, even though I wasn't vlogging, I was doing a lot of writing and I realized that it's Camp Nano. I feel like this happens like every time there's like a NaNoWriMo season. I just forget that it is a thing until we are actually in the month and everyone is like sharing all of their Camp Nano goals. As usual, I don't have any. I don't really give myself like strict writing goals when it comes to like what I want to do every month. Like it's usually very up in the air because I like to have the freedom to just like work on whatever I want. With that said, I was doing some reflection over the last like few days, and I think if I have like any goal that I want to accomplish for this month, it is to finish Sway With Me, which is like the short story that I have like been working on for the last little while. If I can finish like a first draft of that, I will be happy. I feel like I really like how Sway With Me is like turning out right now and the direction that I want to go with it, and just the themes that I want to explore, I feel like are very potent for me at the moment. And I feel like if I wait too long to finish it, I'm going to kind of like lose passion for it. So yeah, if I can get through draft 1 of that short story, I will be happy. I also want to start writing part 3 of NIGHTWARD. I'm still in the middle of like line editing part 2. Like part 2 has been rewritten, but there's like some sections that I'm still not happy with, so I haven't fully let it go yet. Part 3 is kind of like that mushy middle, you know? It's like it doesn't really hold up right now. Like the draft 1 version of part 3 is quite flimsy. It's another short story that I want to work on soon. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it. It depends on like what my mood and motivation is. But I mentioned it earlier in this vlog. It's kind of like a contemporary folklore sapphic kind of story. And I feel like it's sort of an iteration of a story that I've been wanting to write for a while, that I've attempted to write many times, but I feel like I have like a stronger idea for what I want that story to look like now. I don't think I'm gonna plan it out. I think I'm just gonna like go with the wind on that one. So yeah, that is the writing update for this vlog. Obviously like my focus sort of shifted as it does, but I did have a really fun month of writing, like genuinely. I hope this vlog was enjoyable despite it being very messy. I hope all of your writing projects are going well, and thank you guys as always for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
After man, now when nemesis, a menace in my mind, but protagonist in all my drink, a ceiling on my doubts. I need healing in this drought. I've been singing to the ceiling.